My name is Tessa Monroe, and I'm 35 years old. Competence doesn't audition. It hums. The dishwasher clicking to off-peak at 12:01. The budget cells sealing themselves in soft green. The quiet steadiness that keeps the floor from tilting. I like ballast. Nobody praises ballast until the boat lists. Thursday evening sat still, almost perfect. The lamp cast a soft triangle of light across the rug Ethan picked, which really meant I paid and he approved. The apartment smelled faintly of bergamot and roasted garlic. I was closing out a monthly reconciliation when Ethan's voice drifted from the living room. He was on speakerphone. "Mom, I just don't want her to ever know," Ethan said, low but clear. "She'll think we're still trying." She's been so excited about it, I couldn't take that look from her. My fingers froze above the keyboard. Diane Walker's voice, the practiced sympathy of a woman who believes she knows better, filled the room. "Sweetheart, you did what's best. You can't let a baby derail your career. She'll move on when she realizes it wasn't meant to happen." Ethan's laugh was small, nervous. "Yeah, I got the IUD done at the same appointment. She'll never know." They both laughed. The sound landed like a blade between my ribs. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd misheard, that it was about someone else, some client story. But then Diane's tone softened. "You told her you were traveling last week, right?" "Legal conference in Austin," he said. "She bought it. She always does." I didn't move, not even to breathe. The cursor blinked on the spreadsheet like a heartbeat. We'd been trying for 8 months. He'd held me every month I cried, whispered about names, picked out nursery colors. I'd believed him. Now, his words rearranged every moment of tenderness into manipulation. "It's just not the right time," Ethan said. "I can't be a dad right now, not with the firm watching every case." Diane chuckled. "You did the right thing. You can't sacrifice everything for her fantasy life." I stood up too fast. The chair's legs screeched across the floor. The phone went silent in the next room. My hands shook so violently I had to brace them on the counter. I could feel my pulse against my palm. Steady, angry, purposeful. I didn't walk in, didn't shout, didn't demand an explanation. That would have given him control again. Let him twist it into misunderstanding, accident, pity. Instead, I closed my laptop, slipped my charger into my bag, and walked out the back door. The night and air hit my face like cold water. I kept walking until I reached my car. My reflection in the window looked calm. Dead calm. I unlocked my phone and dialed Brianna Chen. She answered on the second ring. "Tess, it's late. I need a separation filing," I said. "Tonight, if possible." "What happened?" "Just, please. I'll explain later." Her voice tightened, but she didn't press. "Okay, come to my office. I'll draft something preliminary." By the time I arrived, it was past 10. Her office lights were the only ones still on in the building. She poured coffee and slid her laptop across the desk. "Tell me what to write." I told her everything, word for word. The laughter, the lies, the IUD. Brianna listened without interruption, her expression flattening into a kind of professional fury. When I finished, she said, "We'll do this fast. You want him served publicly or privately?" I looked out the window. City lights blinked like indifferent stars. "Publicly," I said. "He likes audiences." She nodded once and started typing. Petition for property separation. Notice of intent to vacate shared residence. Cease access to all joint financial accounts. Her fingers moved like a pianist playing a dark hymn. When she finished, she looked up. "Tess, are you sure you don't want to confront him first? Sometimes—" "No," my voice came out steady. He already explained everything he wanted me to know, to his mother. She slid the printed documents into a folder. "I'll have Dale serve him at his morning gym class. He never misses it, right?" I nodded. The precision of it all, times, signatures, delivery, felt like oxygen. By midnight, it was done. I drove home one last time. The apartment lights were off. Ethan was asleep in the bedroom, phone charging face down on the nightstand. I stood in the doorway for a long time, watching him breathe, remembering how I used to trace the outline of his shoulder in the dark. I set my engagement ring on the counter. Next to it, a short note. "Heard your call with Diane. You'll never need to worry about timing again." I took one last look around the apartment we'd built together. The rug he loved, the dishes I bought, the life that was half mine and all performance. The dishwasher hummed in the distance, off-peak at 12:01. When the elevator doors closed behind me, I felt something uncoil inside, a quiet, controlled release. Tomorrow he'd wake up and discover the silence. He'd think I'd gone to work early. By noon, a process server would be waiting for him at the gym. I drove toward the hotel Brianna had booked for me, headlights carving the night into narrow tunnels of light. My mind replayed that sentence over and over, each repetition cutting cleaner than the last. She'll never know. I whispered into the darkness. Oh, Ethan, and you were right. I didn't know, but I do now. And that knowing, that was enough to burn everything down. The morning moved like choreography I'd rehearsed 1,000 times in my head, even though I'd only decided it last night. At 6:42 a.m., my phone vibrated with a text from Brianna. Brianna, Dale is on site. He says the 7 a.m. class is filing in. You okay? Me, yes. Brianna. Serving as he exits. Cleaner optics. Cameras everywhere in that lobby. Me. Perfect. I sat on the hotel windowsill with a lukewarm paper cup of coffee and the file Brianna had color tabbed for me. Petitions, notices, account freezes. The city was pale and uncommitted, the way it looks just before the sun decides to be certain. Somewhere across town, Ethan was stepping onto a treadmill like it was any other Thursday. That steadiness in him, routine, ritual, rhythm, was what I fell in love with. Turns out it's a great way to hide. At 7:12 a.m., my phone blinked again. Dale, delivered. He went white, said, "Is this a joke?" I said no. "Have a blessed day." A second later, Brianna. "You're served, Ethan." I let out a breath I hadn't noticed I'd been holding. Not satisfaction. Not yet. Something closer to relief. Like a splinter finally pushed out by the skin. At 9:03 a.m., Ethan called. I watched his name bloom on my screen and fade 3 times in a row. I didn't pick up. I couldn't trust what my voice would do if I heard him say my name in that careful, reasonable tone he saved for misunderstandings. By 10:20, his mother called. I declined. She called again. Declined. Then a text. Diane, Tessa, you do not get to blindside my son like this. Whatever you think you heard, you're being dramatic. Call me now. I set the phone face down and watched the city finish deciding to be day. Brianna called instead. He's already engaged counsel, she said, her voice dry. Corporate guy who dabbles in family law. That tells me Diane picked him. So, it'll be performative, I said, and slow, if they can help it. I'm filing our notice regarding the residents today. You need to decide about the locks. Change them, I said. Today. Good. I'll draft the supervised access stipulation for his personal items. 2 hours, 1 companion, I'll be present. Make the window Saturday morning, I said. And Brianna, security cameras, front door, back door, garage. You read my mind. At 1:14 p.m., I met Derek, the tech guy Brianna uses for installs, on the sidewalk outside the apartment. 2 hours, he said, hoisting a case of equipment. You'll have eyes on every entry point. Inside, the place smelled like our detergent and something metallic, like anger had a scent, and it had soaked into the drywall. My ring was still on the counter next to the note. I didn't touch either. By 3:26 p.m., the new locks clicked into place. I tested each one with a new key. The sound was clinical, like closing drawers in a morgue. When I left, the camera app pulsed on my phone, a clean, 4-square grid. Front door, back door, garage, hallway. I drove to the office Brianna lent me for the afternoon and watched the feeds while answering emails like a normal person whose life had not just split along a fault line. At 4:00 p.m., the front door camera pinged. Ethan tried his key. It did that sad little useless circle in his hand. He tried it again, then harder. He stepped back and looked up, like he could stare the building into compliance. 30 seconds later, Diane strode into view in a scarf loud enough to declare a personality. Behind them, Kara, his younger sister, hovered, arms crossed like a guard or a prop. Ethan pounded his fist against the door. Tessa, open the door! Diane leaned close to the bell camera. We know you're watching. This is childish. Let him in. I muted the feed and texted Brianna. They're here. Do I owe them a speech? Brianna. No. You owe them policy. I'll ping their counsel. Supervised access on Saturday. Send me the timestamp clip of them pounding, and I'll hold it in case they try to claim denial of essential items. At 4:10, 2 officers ambled into frame. Someone had called them. Diane gestured big, like she was ordering the air around. I unmuted. Ma'am, the officer said, looking at Ethan, do you currently live here? Yes, he said, flashing the perfect smile that used to charm restaurant hosts and my elderly neighbor. My fiancé locked me out. The officer shifted his weight. We're told you were served separation papers this morning. During a separation, the primary occupant has the right to secure the residence pending property arrangements. I glance at Diane. It's civil, not criminal. Diane sputtered. Since when does a piece of paper mean a woman can— Since always, the officer said, weary. Do you have somewhere else to stay, sir? Silence unspooled. Kara tugged gently at Ethan's sleeve. Diane fumed so bright I almost felt heat through the screen. At 4:22 they left, Diane's voice still carving the air. I saved the clip and labeled it with the time. Policy, not speech. By 7 p.m., the calls had evolved into messages with alternating tones, pleading, outraged, reasonable, weaponized, sad. I didn't open the voicemails. I read the previews and filed them into a folder named Noise. At 8:11 p.m., a new number texted, Vanessa Green. Hey, Tessa, it's Vanessa. I know this is complicated, but Ethan is wrecked. He's at his parents' right now, and he's not okay. Could you talk to him? Maybe just hear him out? 6 years together. You don't want to throw that away without a conversation. 6 years together had grown like kudzu around my routines, not like roots in good soil. I typed and deleted a dozen responses, then settled on, I have nothing to ask that he didn't already answer. She typed, stopped typing, typed again. He made a mistake. People do. He panicked. I stared at that word, mistake, until it stopped meaning anything. Then I put my phone on the nightstand and took a very long shower that didn't make me feel cleaner. Friday was for logistics. Brianna had a courthouse morning, and I had the plain work of closing joint auto payments, freezing the shared card, moving my paycheck to the private account I'd opened when we first decided to merge finances. It felt treasonous then. It felt prophetic now. At noon, Brianna called. Rothstein, yep, you guessed it, sent a proposed emergency meeting for today at 4 p.m. No meetings, I said. That's what I told him. We negotiate through counsel, not across a table with Diane staring bullets. I also filed notice of Saturday's access window. 10 to noon. He can bring one person. I'll be there. Thank you, I said. Send me the list of approved items so there's no drama over the Le Creuset. She laughed, short and real. Already printed. Also, we're installing a doorbell cam that streams to a backup cloud. I want redundancy. You worry like me, I said. I learned from the best. Saturday, 9:58 a.m. The camera pinged. Ethan and Kara on the stoop. He'd chosen a navy sweater that made him look softer than he is. Kara's mouth was a flat line. No Diane. Small mercies. I opened the door and stepped back. Brianna stood in the entry with a clipboard and the composed look of a person who could domesticate a hurricane with paperwork. Good morning, she said, professional. These are the items identified as Ethan's personal property. You have 2 hours. Ethan looked past her, searching for me. Tessa, please, can we just 5 minutes? No, I said. You have your list. He flinched at the coolness in my voice, like he hadn't earned it. Kara shot me a look that meant monster and sister protector simultaneously. They moved through the rooms with the purposeful aim of people in a timed game show. The apartment echoed weirdly, as if silence had weight. 40 minutes in, the front door opened and Diane swept in like a private storm. You cannot treat my son like a criminal, she announced. After everything we've done for you. Brianna stepped sideways, a neat block. Ms. Walker, only one companion permitted. You need to wait outside. Diane's eyes cut to me. Tessa, tell your friend to stand down. We are family. I met her gaze, level. We are not family. Not anymore. Color rose to her cheekbones. You're throwing away a life because you misunderstood a private call. You don't know what you heard. I heard him, I said. I heard you. He panicked, she said, voice pitching to that maternal righteousness that turns into sermon. A baby would ruin his trajectory right now. You, of all people, should understand ambition. Brianna's eyebrows floated. Ms. Walker, you are violating the terms of supervised access. Please leave. Diane pivoted like a dancer stabbed mid-turn, muttering to herself as she retreated. The door closed. The camera blinked, recording it all. Ethan set down a stack of sweaters and tried again. Tess, I'm sorry for the call. It sounded worse than it was. Mom, I was venting. Venting includes laughing about how I always buy it when you lie? His mouth opened, shut. I didn't mean, you meant exactly what you said to the only person you've never had to perform for. He stared at the floor, then at me. I love you. The words used to be a bridge. Today they were a marketing slogan. Then maybe you should have protected me, I said, and walked into the kitchen to let the words fall hard in the space between us. They packed in silence after that. Kara hauled a box to the door and paused. You don't have to do it like this, she said softly, surprising us both. You could just listen. I listened, I said, on Thursday. At 11:57 a.m. they were done. Ethan stood in the doorway with the last of his things, eyes raw, mouth working around a closing argument he couldn't find. We can fix this, he said. Therapy, whatever you want. I want you to stop calling me, I said. I want peace. He gave a hollow laugh. You think this is peace? No, I said. This is policy. The door clicked shut behind them, and the apartment exhaled. I sank into the chair by the lamp and stared at the rug he picked. Outside, the late morning noise was ordinary. Buses sighing, people laughing, a dog barking like joy was easy. In my phone, the camera feeds showed 4 calm rectangles of nothing. I texted Brianna, done, thank you. She replied with a photo of the clipboard. Every box initialed, every minute accounted for. Consequences aren't loud, she wrote. They're documented. I rested my head against the chair and let the sentence settle like a blanket I could finally bear. The weeks that followed were a strange kind of silence. Thick, humming, charged. People talk about heartbreak like it's noise, but for me, it was data. Names, timestamps, screenshots, reports. Proof that my life had changed shape. At first, Ethan tried the soft approach. Emails with subject lines like, we can fix this, or you owe me a chance. I didn't respond. When that failed, he tried aggression. Then came the whisper campaign. It started small. A coworker from another department stopped me in the break room, hesitant smile. Tess, I ran into Kara at the coffee shop, she said. She said some things, that you forced Ethan into trying for a baby he didn't want, that when it didn't work out, you snapped. The words hit like static. Snapped? She said you lost it emotionally, started locking him out, filing things in secret. I just thought you should know what's going around. I thanked her and walked away before she could say sorry. By the end of the week, 2 mutual friends unfollowed me on social media. Another texted, I don't know what to believe, but I hope you both heal. That's code for I believe him. Brianna told me not to engage. Every time you react, you fuel the story, she said. They want your outrage. Don't give it to them. I didn't. I gave them silence. But silence doesn't protect your job. Monday morning, HR called. Ms. Monroe, could we speak privately? The director, polite smile glued in place, gestured toward a chair. We received an anonymous complaint. Claims of erratic behavior, unprofessional outbursts, emotional instability. It references your recent personal situation. I almost laughed. My personal situation? He nodded, awkward. We're obligated to follow up. Nothing in your record supports this, but corporate compliance requires documentation. It was a thinly veiled setup, an attempt to rattle me, maybe even jeopardize my security clearance at the firm. When I told Brianna, she sighed. Classic harassment via proxy. Don't worry, I'll send them a letter reminding everyone what happens when defamation meets discovery. 2 days later, my car was keyed, both sides deep enough to catch the light like silver wounds. Security cameras in the parking garage? Malfunctioning, management said. Of course. I filed a report, not because I expected justice, but because I wanted the paper trail. Every act of pettiness was a breadcrumb leading back to him. That night, I sat on my couch and watched the security footage from my apartment's cameras, replaying the first day he came to collect his things. His expression, rage blurred with shame, looked less like heartbreak, more like exposure. He'd never forgiven me for not giving him the scene he expected, the confrontation, the tears, the collapse. I'd stolen his narrative. He was trying to take it back, one rumor at a time. By the 3rd week, Diane's name popped up on my phone again. At first, I thought it was another voicemail. Then, security called from the lobby of my building. Ms. Monroe, there's a Diane Walker here insisting she has an appointment with you. She's becoming agitated. I close my laptop. Call the police if she doesn't leave. Do not let her upstairs. She left before the officers arrived. That night, I opened my inbox and found a 5-page email. You are destroying my son's life. You humiliated him in public and turned his friends against him. You have no right to weaponize a private decision. The abortion was none of your business. It was his body, his choice. You are heartless and vindictive, and if you don't pay him what he deserves, $50,000 for emotional damages, I will make sure everyone knows the kind of woman you are. I read it twice, then forwarded it to Brianna. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Keep it. This is harassment. If she continues, we'll file for a restraining order. She's just trying to bait you. I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen until the words blurred, then closed the laptop. The next day, Ethan's attorney, Rothstein, filed for emergency support. He claimed I'd abandoned Ethan without warning and left him destitute and homeless. The audacity almost impressed me. Brianna's counterfiling was surgical. Time-stamped proof of service at 7:12 a.m. Camera footage of Ethan screaming, "This is my house!" Bank statements showing his active account balances and salary deposits $185,000 a year. The texts where Diane bragged about helping him take her down. It took the judge 5 minutes to deny the motion. When we left the courthouse, Brianna grinned. He's rattled. They're playing offense because they've already lost defense. I nodded, but it didn't feel like winning. It felt like cleaning up someone else's mess with surgical gloves and no skin left underneath. Then came Vanessa. She called one night at 10:47, voice low, almost pleading. Tess, he's not okay. You should see him. He's barely sleeping. You can't just walk away from 6 years like it was nothing. I laughed softly. He walked away first. I just noticed. You're being cold. He laughed about ending my pregnancy with his mother. What temperature would you prefer I be? Silence. Then, quietly, he said it wasn't like that. He said you made it sound worse than it was, Scholes. I sighed. Tell him I said thank you for the lesson. I finally understand that control isn't love. She exhaled sharply. You sound proud. No, I said. Just done. The following week, Ethan's carefully crafted image began to crack. Word spread that he'd botched a client negotiation at his firm, distracted, irritable, lashing out. Someone leaked the court transcript, Brianna's motion responses, to a colleague. Gossip travels fast when hypocrisy makes good entertainment. For the first time since this began, I let myself breathe. The revenge I'd never planned was already unfolding, slowly, naturally, inevitably. I wasn't pulling strings, I was just letting gravity do its work. One night, I found myself replaying the old phone recording I'd saved from my security feed. The sound of him pounding on the door, shouting my name, his mother yelling, "Be a man and let her talk." I turned the volume down and watched it in silence. The woman in the footage, me, didn't look angry. She looked free. And freedom, I realized, is louder than revenge. 8 weeks after I filed, the courthouse smelled faintly of paper and coffee, like every bureaucratic ending does. Brianna and I sat side by side at a long oak table. Across from us, Ethan, thinner, pale, hair unkempt in a way that used to be charming, and now just looked unfinished. Beside him sat Rothstein, shuffling papers with theatrical exhaustion. When Ethan looked at me, there was something almost pleading behind his eyes. I didn't feel hate, not even anger, just the kind of tired that sits in your bones when a long fever finally breaks. Brianna spoke first, clear and steady. Here's the division proposal. The apartment is sold, proceeds split evenly after mortgage payoff. Retirement accounts divided by years of cohabitation. No alimony, both parties' incomes comparable. Ms. Monroe retains her professional assets. Mr. Walker keeps his vehicle and his own accounts. That's it. Rothstein sighed. Seems fair. He glanced at Ethan, who nodded without lifting his eyes. The pen clicked in Brianna's hand, one small, satisfying sound of finality. As I signed the final document, my name looping neatly in blue ink, I felt something loosen, like an invisible rope untied from my ribs. Ethan finally spoke, his voice cracked. Tess, I really am sorry, about everything. I looked at him for a long moment. The man who once made grocery lists with me, who memorized my coffee order, who promised me a family. Okay, I said. That was all. There was nothing else left to say. A month later, the decree arrived in the mail. Official, embossed, impersonal. I poured a glass of wine and left it unopened beside me on the counter, reading the words 3 times. Finalized. That night, I slept through the entire night for the first time in months. No dreams, just quiet. Weeks passed. Life recalibrated itself into smaller, simpler motions. I moved into a 1-bedroom condo downtown, 900 square feet of clean slate, white walls, tall windows, a dishwasher that hums right on time at 12:01. I bought a new rug, not the kind he'd approve of. Something bright, mismatched, loud. Every morning, I walk to work with a cup of coffee and a playlist that starts with silence. Therapy is helping. Trust is a muscle, apparently, not a vow. Sometimes I still hear echoes of that phone call. She'll never know. It plays like static when I'm tired. But it doesn't sting anymore. It just reminds me how fragile certainty is. People still ask if I feel guilty for how publicly everything fell apart. For the service, for the cameras, for not letting him explain. I don't. You can't fix betrayal with conversation. You can only document it, survive it, and move forward. He wanted control. I gave him consequences. Brianna and I grabbed dinner 2 months after the final decree. She handed me a small envelope. "It's a closure letter," she said. His attorney finally confirmed all payments cleared. I smiled. "You mean it's over?" "It's been over," she said. "This just makes it legal." She tilted her head, studying me. "You seem peaceful." "I am," I said. I thought revenge would feel louder. Turns out peace is quieter and costs less in legal fees. She laughed. "Put that on a mug." Ethan's life unraveled quietly. Word reached me through mutual friends. He'd been passed over for a promotion. His performance reviews tanked. Diane's constant interference made things worse. Kara moved out of their mother's house, needed space, according to social media. Vanessa stopped posting with him altogether. He still has his law license. His name still shows up in the firm's directory, but he's a ghost in it. No major clients, no new cases. That's not revenge. That's momentum reversing. One afternoon, I ran into Kara at the farmer's market. She hesitated before approaching. "Tessa," she said quietly, "I wanted to say, I'm sorry for how I acted. I didn't know the whole story." "You don't owe me that," I said. "I kind of do. He's not doing well." I nodded. "He will, eventually. People always think consequences are permanent. They're not. They just last as long as the lesson takes to sink in." She looked like she wanted to say more, but didn't. When she walked away, I felt nothing but a faint, bittersweet relief. 2 weeks later, I met someone new. Ryan Caldwell, a physician's assistant, divorced 3 years ago. We met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner. He was quiet, kind, steady, in the way calm water is steady, not the way silence before a storm is. We've been cautious. I told him early about the divorce, the betrayal, the therapy. He listened, not with sympathy, but with understanding. We take it slow. We don't talk about forever, just next week. Some nights, when I catch my reflection before bed, I almost don't recognize her. The woman who stayed calm while her life detonated, who weaponized composure like armor. She looks lighter now. Ethan taught me that control is fragile, that secrets rot the walls of a relationship from the inside. He wanted his mother's approval, his firm's respect, and my trust, all at once. In trying to keep them all, he lost everything. I didn't ruin his life. He did. I just stopped pretending not to see it happening. People ask if I'd do anything differently. I think about it sometimes, the call, the quiet decision, the ring left on the counter, and I always land on the same answer. "She'll never know," he said, but I did. And knowing, that was enough. Because the best revenge isn't dramatic. It's peace. It's waking up and realizing you don't need an apology to start over. It's watching someone live inside the wreckage they built while you walk away lighter. It's freedom. And freedom finally hums, soft, steady, and right on time.